Hey guys, the video that you're about to watch is a Q&A session which I had with some of the students which had early access to my course on how to outreach and find new clients wherever they are in the world or even at a local level. So this is great for people who are looking for new clients either remotely or locally, and basically this session is just a Q&A. So without further ado, I'll let you jump into the video. All right, seems like everyone's in the room. So yeah, let's get started with the very first question, which I received from Alex. So the first question is, can I outreach without following up? How effective are follow-ups? Now, this is a very important question, and the straight answer is no. Like, I would then never I would never outreach without following up, simply because following up is such an important part of outreach. And I myself, I noticed, especially when it comes to email outreach, I would make the vast majority of money and conversions with the follow-ups. It's very rare that someone will just see the first message and is going to reply. So I would say follow-ups are extremely important, and I would always do them. Simply because like you're simply losing money if you're not following up. I know that it can be that it's extra work and it takes time, but the reality is that the ROI on that action is just so high that you cannot just avoid it, because rather than rather than sending 300 emails, I'd rather send 300 emails without follow-ups. I'd rather send 100 emails with following up. And this can be also automated sequences, so you don't need to do it manually, and that's what I'm showing in the course. And there's ways around it also when it comes to Facebook outreach. You can definitely note down on an Excel spreadsheet also the clients and prospects which you already followed up with. But the straight answer is absolutely do follow up, because it's very important, and you'd lose money if you don't do it. So let's jump into the next question, which is what is the very best outreach method that works in 2019? So there isn't really a very best outreach method, and the reason being is that outreach methods, they're just tools. But what you have to understand, guys, is that basically the tool is not really that important. The tool is just like I'm going to give you a real life example, which is outside the business context, so that you really understand the perspective of these tools and outreach method. So let's say that you want to hang out with your friend for a beer or a drink. What is the best messaging tool? Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, or the just standard message app on the phone? Like there really isn't one. I mean, you can definitely have one that you prefer the most. Maybe use WhatsApp more than Facebook Messenger, but the reality is that if you're both connected on all of these apps and you're going to receive a notification on all of these apps, you can immediately understand that, in order to communicate that message, which is you inviting your friend for a beer or a drink, that's that's the most important thing, just communicating that message. So again, there are pros and cons when it comes to the different outreach methods, but there really isn't like one which is the best. If you get what I mean. So that being said, I do have a preference tilted towards email marketing, email outreach. And the reason being is that I can create automated follow-up sequences easier, in a more easy way, rather than Facebook, LinkedIn, or other outreach methods. But I think that on that note, I also want to say that there are some pros and cons, and I think that, for example, Facebook Messenger can add a more personal touch to it. It's much more direct way of contacting a person. However, there are nuances, but at the end of the day, guys, what's really important is that you get in contact with that decision maker, that business owner, that founder, whoever it is that you want to contact, and basically you want to provide some sort of value and just communicate your message across, no matter how he receives that message. The most important thing is that he receives it. So that's something that I want to keep in mind, and hope this answers your question. Now let's hop to the next question, which is what should I do when they ask me for past work experience but I haven't got anything to show for it? Okay, there's a few ways you can address this. So the very first one is you could just be honest and say, hey, I don't have any work experience in when it comes to this specific type of project, but I've done these other projects which are similar, and I would be really eager to learn and to really demonstrate you my value, and I'm willing to go above and beyond in order to fulfill the project. That's one of the ways you can go for it. Really depends on your situation. Maybe you can even consider giving a small discount if you feel it's appropriate for that specific project. Another way you can go after it is you can say, hey, I already worked on similar projects, but unfortunately I have an NDA, so I can't reveal and show them. So this is a more kind of refined way, and it really depends on the project. Really depends if you really worked on past projects and you have NDAs, so you kind of understand this. Another way you can reply to this is saying to them that you get back to them with some examples of work that you've done, and maybe you can show some work of one of your team members or freelancers that you want to partner up with on that project. So basically you can leverage their portfolio in order to get the project. So even if you haven't got personally that experience, you can leverage that person that you're going to work with in order to fulfill the project. So again, this there isn't the one right answer. It really depends on the project and your specific situation, and what the project and past work experience required from the client is. So hope this answers that question. Let's move on to the next one, which is what if they say they'll think about it? Okay, red flag over here. Usually when they say that they'll think about it, it's usually a polite way to say no. Most of the times, sometimes they really just have to think about it, but based on my experience, I've done like so many sales calls, and I can tell you it's rarely the case. Usually when they tell to me that they need to think about it, I usually say something around the lines of hey, Mr. Prospect. Usually when people say that they need to think about it, it's usually a polite way to say no. Is there anything in this specific project or in this specific project that you'd like to further discuss, or that you feel uncomfortable moving forward with? So essentially what I'm trying to do here is to try and figure out the reason why they're not confident in moving forward, and then based on that I try to figure out a way to create a win-win situation still. So usually it can be something like the pricing. Maybe the price is too high, so you can work on that. Maybe you can get less features into the project, and you can lower the price, or there's tons of ways you can go after it, but usually that's the thing. Now let's move on to the next one, which is I sent many emails, but I haven't got any conversions. Just 5 replies, but didn't convert them. So, okay, there's a few things here. So the first one is what do you refer to as many emails? Because in the past I had students that said I sent many emails, but maybe they sent like 20 or 50 emails, and they haven't got any results yet. But usually it's the most important thing is to send at least 100 emails, so that you can really start working in percentages and see the result in percentages. So if you sent 100 emails, and in this case you just got 5 replies, you had a 5% conversion rate when it comes to the reply. And I'm actually curious to understand how many of these replies you managed to get on a phone call. So how many of them booked a call with you, in order to essentially understand how you can create a win-win situation. So that would be the very first thing. But again, you did receive some replies, so at that point the thing that you want to really focus on is understand why those 5 replies didn't convert. And this can be a number of issues, of potential issues. So maybe the targeting wasn't aligned with your service. Maybe the email template wasn't or at least the email message, because again, we're not using templates like structured templates. We always want to create something from scratch, especially for the first email. So the email template could have some issues. Maybe it's not communicating as well as it could the main concepts, and or maybe you hopped on a sales call and the sales call didn't went well, simply because the questions or the entire dynamics of the sales calls weren't properly tackled. So there's a lot going on here. What I would recommend you to do is if you can send me an email right after this call, let's and you can give me more details about this. I would be happy to help, but as it is right now, it's a little bit difficult to tackle, to give you like some specific valuable feedback. So yeah, just shoot me an email, and we're going to bring this conversation forward. So I'm going to jump to the next question, which is how do you decide upon what services to offer? Okay, this is a very big question, and but the simple answer is only offer services that you can provide great value. So you don't want to offer services which you're kind of okay at, but you're not great at. And the reason being is that the entire sales process, the entire outreach process, and your entire business workflow is going to be much easier if you only focus on providing great value. So, and this, by the way, can be not only with your expertise, but also with the expertise of some team members or other freelancers who you're partnering up with. So to give you some real life examples, if you're great, if you're a great UI UX designer, and you specialize in websites and web apps, and maybe iOS or Android apps, Just offer UI UX services, but if you're not great at the development part of it, just straight up don't offer it. Or alternatively, you can partner up with someone who is great at that aspect. But if you're not planning in providing like excellent service in that area, I just would not add it in my services list. Or even if it's something that you're not really interested and passionate in working. So for example, in my case, I do have quite a bit of experience when it comes to graphic design. I would say I'm good at it, but I'm not great at it, and it's not really an area which interests me anymore. I don't want to do print design with my clients, especially because I'm working remotely. So it's difficult at times to really get some some excellent print designs done without being able to go to the print shop and do tests and really make the entire process, hands-on and really being sure that you can provide great value. But even if I could even if I can get around that, it's not something which is interesting for me to offer anymore. I don't want to do graphic design work. So even though I could do it and I can do it, I'm not offering it simply because I know that I can provide great value in UI UX and I have all of the elements in my control. So that's the reason why I'm only focusing on that. But yeah, this is very, very important. And another thing you must consider is there a need in the marketplace for that specific service? And you can simply see, research your marketplace and see if there currently is a need. Or you could also talk with your potential clients and just ask them in a form of questionnaire, or just like sending them some emails, asking them about their goals or their pain points, and really understanding if what you or if what you're aiming at offering is going to provide great value to them. So talking with your potential clients, that's something which is super important. You always want to be aligned with the marketplace, not just make guesses based on your passion. So I would say it's these elements that you'd have to consider. So let's jump to the next question, which is Facebook outreach better than email outreach? I would just refer you to the first part of this Q&A session, because there really isn't the best between one and the other. It really depends on the type of client you're doing the outreach to, but as long as you get the message across, you're going to be good. Now let's move on to the next one, which is I'm stuck when creating the email script. I don't know what to write. Okay, this is very simple. Just think about your prospect and just take out a piece of piece of paper and a pen, and essentially write out what are the most important things that your prospect need to know about you in order to evaluate if having a call with you or not. And it's going to be quite a few, but you just want to focus on the 4 most important, let's say, like around 3 or 4 most important things. And usually that's going to be your portfolio. That's going to be things like your workflows and things of that nature, or even not the workflows for the email, but just our portfolio, the type of market you're serving, and things like that. And essentially you create you create a bullet list, but it's actually going to be a numbered list.
So you're going to essentially note down these 4 most important points in order of hierarchy. And once you have that, you create the email, and you essentially think through what are the most important things that I want to communicate. And based on that, you have this checklist where you can create the email and really see if you're checking all of these points. And that's usually how I create the email template or the message for Facebook, the message for LinkedIn. It's all the same, guys. The tools do not matter. It's all about really communication. At this stage, it's all about finding that way to bridge the gap between your value to communicating that to the customer. So yeah, this is it, guys. Really enjoyed this Q&A session. If you have any other questions or would like some more insights, or have like any specific pointers you want to discuss, always feel free to email me. I'm always around, and I'm also in Skype. So yeah, but hope this was helpful, and see you in the next one.